Hello and welcome to the British Sitcom History Podcast. This is part 2 of our look at hippies. And so we're already partway through the episode, Muddy Hippies. That's episode 5 of the series. You've already missed all the contextual stuff. We've done all that last week, so go back and listen to that if you haven't already. We kind of went right through the comedy world of the 90s to see where all our main players were. We've still got quite a few actors to look at here, including the likes of a Simon Pegg, a big movie star now, of course. But back in 1999, he was just a hippie. But before we get to him, let's talk about Julian Rhind-Tutt and the character he plays, Alex. Let's go.
We're going to need to talk about this character. And Ray's hitching a lift, and we'll come back to that in a minute.
Yep.
But Alex is taking his nonchalance to a new level. So while Ray's panicking and flapping and trying to get a lift, Alex is leaning on the wreckage of the car. He's smoking, obviously. But he's also got a book in his hand. He's just nonchalantly reading a novel.
Alex is effortlessly cool, and that's kind of his whole
He is.
shtick. And even the way he walks, the way he moves is just beautiful. And
It's good. It's good physical characterization. Julian Rhind-Tutt. He's languid. He's languid in his movements. And yeah, so he is everything that Ray wants to be, really.
In a way, like, he wants to be cool, but I think in a very different way. Because Alex, obviously, he's a bit posher. He went to Harrow.
Well, he's got a double-barreled name, and as we said, until the last 20 years, double-barreled code's posh.
And again, I think what is good about hippies is that we get these 4 distinct types of hippies. You know, the kind of really bombastic idealistic, the feminist. We'll come back to Darren Boyd's character, Hugo, but he's more like the stonery kind of spaced out kind of vibe. And then we've got Julian Rhind-Tutt's character of Alex, who is...
He's just opting out.
The Chelsea type. Yeah, he's just like a bohemian, I'm stepping out of society. And you know, in 10 years, he's going to be a banker.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. He'll be throwing families out their homes by the time 1975 comes around.
Yeah.
He's just taking a year out. That's all he is. This is I get chippy about this, as you know. This is common people. You know, he'll never know. He'll never know what it's like.
Exactly.
It's a lot easier to be a dropout when you come from money.
Yeah.
And that's why he does nothing. You know, in the magazine, like, Ray's doing all the work, and Ray's got all the vim and the get up and go, and Alex doesn't care. He just sits and smokes.
But what we don't get is he's not like he's got money. I mean, he must have money of some kind, but he's not like, oh, I'll throw money at the situation, like, it's not a problem.
No, because he's living like common people.
Yes. And he goes to sex parties with his parents and things like that.
Yeah, they're very bohemian too. Whereas we see Ray's parents in another episode, and they're just a working class couple.
Actually, do you know what? We're saying Alex would end up being a banker, sort of a terrible person, but I think he would probably end up being a journalist for the BBC and using his connections to get a very good job in journalism. Because we see him.
Do you know what he'll be doing in 20 years? Foreign Office. He's Rory Stewart. He's going to be Rory Stewart in 20 years. He's going to be the deputy attaché for trade at some embassy, where he's well, that's not his only job. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit more about Julian Rhind-Tutt then, seeing as we've focused on the character?
Do you know what, right? I didn't find out a lot about Julian Rhind-Tutt, and you may be shocked to hear this, Gareth, but when I was doing research on the show, you know, Simon Pegg, huge star, Sally Phillips, big name, they don't talk a lot about hippies in interviews. This doesn't seem to be the focus of a lot of what they're talking about. But there we go. I thought Julian Rhind-Tutt I might have better hope with, but not really.
He's been in a lot of serious stuff. I've seen him as a serious actor. Although the first time I became aware of him was Green Wing. That was after this, though, wasn't it?
It is after this, but, you know, a lot of the same people involved. It's definitely the same world, you know, a lot of the...
I loved Green Wing. I remember seeing that without any fanfare, just watching it when it was on telly and thinking, oh, this is brilliant. I've discovered something really brilliant here. And nobody else, it just didn't break big, you know?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be massive, and it wasn't.
And Green Wing is sort of a product of Smack the Pony. It's a lot of the creative people kind of came through that, the writers. And Green Wing sort of had a writer's room kind of vibe rather than like two writers who kind of put it all together. There was more going on there. But, you know, you've got all those people, Mark Heap from Space, you know, and people like that. And a lot of Smack the Pony kind of people. Sally Phillips turned up in it for a while. The Black Books connections as well, Tamsin Gregg. Yeah, Graham Linehan to there, yeah. Anyway, all that kind of stuff. It's all part of the same world. But Julian Rhind-Tutt, he was, because he obviously comes across as quite posh in a lot of things. I think that's kind of his type.
Double-barreled, mate.
Yeah, but he's not like properly posh. From what I could tell, I sort of found an interview with him where he talked a bit about his personal life. And so he was the fifth of 5 children, so the youngest, but also like a decade younger than his siblings. So I think he was a real baby of the family and sort of raised by adult siblings as well as parents. And it said his father had a building business. It doesn't quite say his father was a builder. His father had a building business, and there is a difference there.
That's different. Like Alfred McAlpine has got a building business.
And he did go to a private school, but he also said that his mother basically went back to work, you know, post-kids, went back to work to help pay for that. So he's not rich, you know. I think there's a kind of a...
But they always say that, don't they, Alan? What does that mean?
Yeah, maybe.
She went and worked in publishing for a couple of days a week.
Why
am I so chippy today? What's wrong with me?
But, he basically he went to Central, he went to drama school and all this. And he was a legit actor, not a comedy actor. He wasn't a comedian who went into comedy acting, he was an actor. And like I say, Let Them Eat Cake came just before Hippies, but Hippies was his introduction to the world of comedy acting, as far as I can tell. You know, this was his breakthrough role in that world.
It's a very straight role, though, isn't it? You know, it's not like he's doing yuck-yucks here. It's a very subdued performance.
It's very different to what Simon Pegg is doing, I grant you, but it's a very comedic performance, and the timing is absolutely impeccable.
I think he's great. It wasn't intended as a criticism. I think he's great. And funnily enough, I've written down timing as well. I think, his line deliveries are perfect. I just mean, you know, it's not slapstick, is it?
One of my favourite moments is when someone sends him out to get that bird to shut up. And then he walks back in, just gently pinching the bird's beak. And that is, like, he performs it beautifully, but that is a very Matthews Linehan style gag.
Very good.
But a wonderful moment. And he just plays it totally deadpan. I think deadpan-y is very deadpan.
Yeah, that's a better word.
I also saw this interview. He was a legit actor, so he did a lot of theatre, and then he kind of moved more into the TV world. And he kind of jokingly in this interview said, you know, it's a lot easier to do TV. You can just be very, you know, just sit around and do a little bit rather than doing a big performance. And there was sort of a joke there, but I do, from what I've seen of Julian Rhind-Tutt, he's very kind of low-key, quiet kind of style. And so maybe that does suit better to TV than the stage. Yeah. Maybe he just found his home there a little better. In terms of his comedic, credits post Hippies, immediately after Hippies, so immediately after that they must have been filming around the same time, he was in a show called The Wilsons. We talked about it briefly because it was written by Bernadette Davis, who is the writer of Game On, and it was kind of a follow-up to that. And she did that, Game On, The Wilsons, and Some Girls, and so that was kind of the one in there. And so he's a regular in that. He's not in the family. He's like the social worker who comes to see the family, and again, a very kind of similar vibe of performance. And then he's in Green Wing, of course. He was a regular in that. Kind of created a bit of a double act with Stephen Mangan. They did a lot of adverts, didn't they? Was it for Barclaycard or something? They ended up made a bit of money out of that. Fair play to him. He was in A Touch of Cloth. Again, that was sort of another comedic, not quite a sitcom, but a comedy kind of detective.
It was a bit of a spoof detective show.
And of course, quite recently, he played Sally Phillips' husband in Bridget Jones 3.
Ah, right.
So there you go.
Fine. So if Sally Phillips is the pound shop Bridget Jones, then that means Julian Rhind-Tutt is pound shot Hugh Grant?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done a fair bit of serious work over the years as well. He does dramatic acting and you know, things that are dramatic but, you know, fairly light-hearted in tone often.
I remember seeing him in Sky's historical Roman drama, Britannia. And he was like, you know, really straight character in that. Like he was a British type. I don't know what designation is, but there was no comedy in that.
He always reminds me of Bill Nighy a little bit. Do you think now he's getting a little bit older, he's going to move into kind of a Bill Nighy roles?
Well, he'll need to get a haircut.
Hey, do you know what, right? I've seen him recently, like pictures of him recently, and he does look like I feel like he peaked in his 20s, you know? Like he looks like if you did a sort of revisionist sequel to The Three Musketeers, and you wanted an older D'Artagnan who's kind of riddled with syphilis. Like he's kind of got that vibe now.
Hey, come on, we're none of us getting any younger. Let's hear it was without wrinkle.
Hey, well, wait until we talk about Darren Boyd. Talk about aging well. Whew. We'll come back to that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm happy to come back to that. Back to the episode. So we're hitchhiking, and there's a little thing here about how Ray reckons this will be easy because people love we young people in our alternative lifestyle. And of course, they don't. Everyone hates hippies.
Yes, of course.
And that's the joke. Yes. And then a transit van pulls up and three lads get out and beat him up, which is quite funny. Like just a little bit of comedy cartoon violence, like you said earlier.
Yeah, and then the punchline is, that's the third time that's happened. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, it's a good topper. But did you notice how... So basically, the transit van pulls up and three working class young men get out and beat him up. Did you see how they were denoted working class? It was their outfits.
Yeah.
So one of them's got a donkey jacket on, one of them's got like a lumberjack coat type thing on, and the other one's wearing overalls. Yeah. Like they're working men. Working. I don't know what job they've been at, because they're all wearing different outfits.
And we see that Jill immediately got a lift because she's a chick, as Ray says, which is probably fair. You're probably more likely to get picked up if you're a woman. But then we have a weird little scene with Jill carousing in a car with this gentleman who... And we do a little kind of wanking off the gear stick montage. And the weird thing about this was it kind of... It's a silly little scene, and it's in keeping with the tone of comedy that we have, so it's like, fine. But it didn't go anywhere. It was just kind of, that was the gag. Yeah. I was sort of expecting that joke to go somewhere, like it went up to some sort of kind of comedic topper.
Climax?
A climax is a good word. Or... suddenly she turns into that feminist, like, how dare you treat me like this, kind of some joke like that. And it kind of doesn't go anywhere. I'm like, that's interesting. Why didn't that go anywhere? Cut to, I wonder what Hugo's doing. And we see him in a car and a guy kind of gently flirting with him with his gear stick. And so that's the joke. That's the topper. It's gay. That's the joke. So the Jill bit was actually just a setup for that. Which brings me to a question. Quite a lot of homophobia in this show. Now, it is 1999, and I don't think it's particularly out of kilter with the sort of things we're seeing at that time. So I'm not going to judge it too harshly. But they really do hammer that quite a lot. There's an episode where Jill grows a beard, just because that's what feminists were doing, I guess. I think
it was fashionable.
Yeah, because she's just like, hey, this is where women can have beards as well, man. It's cool. And for once, she's actually interested in shagging Ray, and he is put off by the beard. That's the joke. It's like, oh, yeah, he's finally going to get in the wind away. Oh, my God, she's got a beard. The secondary joke being he's trying to grow a beard, and his beard is crap compared to hers. So it's emasculating to him. But... what I found interesting about that little scene is that he's not his usual Ray, where he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just not really, I don't really get that, I'm not really into that. He's like, whoa, no chance, I'm not doing that, me no likey. And it's like, well, that's finally, we're sort of seeing this kind of, what I want from Ray, but it's really directed in a homophobic way, and I found that interesting.
I don't really disagree with you. I think there's nothing there that's out and out, bigoted. Yeah. But it's that sort of 90s, back to the walls, lads, type thing,
Yeah. And I think maybe it comes across stronger because these characters are supposed to be quite cool and like laid back hippies, like we're cool with everyone.
Yeah, but they're cool in 1967. It's not. Yeah. I don't think there would have been a lot of when people talk about free love in the 60s. They're talking about with chicks. You really don't have to scrape the surface of any countercultural movement very far before you discover a bloke just trying to get a shag. Yeah.
There's also an unseen friend of Jill's who Ray constantly refers to as a big, fat, hairy lesbian, which is never really delivered with any kind of grace or joke. It's just an insult. No. Little things that haven't aged that well, I suppose. So now we get into the festival bit here, and we get a few festival shenanigans, trouble putting the tent up, and then crap toilets and stuff like that. But I don't know. It feels like a missed opportunity here. It feels like we could have started here. You know, the festival. This is the festival episode where they're in the whole time and had fun with all that kind of classic stuff.
The festival feels incidental, and there are only about 19 people at the festival. You know,
yeah, 3/10. And then, like, you know, Hugo's character ends up, you know, jumping in the mud and all that is kind of classic idea of festivals. But even that is pretty much just, oh, here's some mud.
That's terrible business.
Yeah,
we're going to go through the rest of this episode, but can we just cover off Hugo's arc? Because basically, he takes a load of drugs. He says, "Oh, it's not really working." Then, boom! It suddenly kicks in, and he falls back into the mud. And then people cover him up with mud. And then a Chinese man buys him, thinking he's an artifact, and that's it.
Something like that. Yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? And again, sort of perhaps a sort of a problem intrinsically with the show. What is Hugo? And I think he gets a little bit lost in
He's
the
very
episodes.
much the fourth character, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he has a lot less to do. He has a lot fewer lines, a lot less screen time.
This particular episode, definitely, yeah.
There's just not much to him, you know. He's stupid. He's thick. That's it. That's the characterization.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out, if that was what it was, or is he supposed to be like a spaced out kind of on drugs all the time, and that's why
you said
kind of
stoner earlier.
Yeah, but it's not, is it? It's certainly not what it comes across
think
as.
so.
But was it written like that? I don't know. Is it supposed to be that?
Honestly, having watched 6 episodes of this, I'm not sure if he wasn't in it. I'm not sure it would be any worse. I don't think it would be that different, really.
Yeah, there's the occasional like nice little line, isn't there? But yeah, it's not.
I don't mean that it's a bad performance. I just mean the character. I'm not sure what it adds.
Alex was just saying he doesn't think he's Jesus.
Uh-oh.
What's the matter, Hugo?
Nothing. It's just if Alex isn't Jesus, that kind of makes it more likely that I am, and I've always had a little bit of a worry about that.
Exactly. And I think, again, that is in our look at why does Hippies not quite work? Like, what are the ingredients and what are we mixing together here? It's just, yeah, what's that then? What's going on there? Should we take the opportunity to look at Darren Boyd, though?
Yeah, let's, because I'm glad we've got to Darren Boyd, because he's one of those guys, one of those faces that you see popping up in loads and loads of things. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we already talked about Smack the Pony and Green Wing. But he's been quite a lot of serious stuff as well. He's been in some serious acting roles. Maybe not quite on the Julian Rhind-Tutt side of the scale, but...
Do you know what? I have to give some major props to Darren Boyd, because that's what I thought of him as. Is like, yeah, he's in I see him in all sorts of things, and he just sort of turns up. He's like supporting character and that. But actually, he's done some pretty significant stuff.
Yeah,
and a lot more than I realised until I kind of researched into this. And like, I do admit I've got a bit of a blind spot when it's in sitcoms of the last 20 years. Like, I'm definitely sort of stuck in the past. I am actually trying to remedy that. I've been watching more modern stuff recently. Darren Boyd has been up to all sorts, and I was shocked really by how much was going on. But I found an interview with him, and he was like a really shy kid, but found his confidence through drama. That as kind of he discovered himself as a teenager at the amateur dramatics class. Went to drama school and all that. He got his sort of a little bit of a break. He got a part in Les Mis on the West End, but like in the ensemble. He wasn't like a major role. He was just in his mid-20s. But great, in terms of the process of your career, that's a lovely step up. And the person who was in Les Mis at the time was an actor, Chris Langham. I'm sure
Chris Langham.
Chris Langham, yeah.
First series of In the Thick of It.
Yeah, not the second later.
Funny that.
Anyway, so Chris Langham saw this young man in the chorus of Les Mis, and I don't know, something about him stood out. And so Chris Langham wrote Kiss Me Kate, the sitcom for Caroline Quentin. He's in it. He's in it, but he wrote it. And he wrote the part for Darren Boyd in it. That was his big break, a really good sort of supporting role in a proper mainstream sitcom. And then it's sort of immediately off the back of that, he's got Smack the Pony. He did his own show called Los Dos Bros, which was kind of didn't really do it, but it was all the same people involved, all the same kind of producers and stuff. Anyway, so here's what I found out. In 2002, he was in a show called Watching Ellie with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. This is an American show. He went over to America and broke America.
He broke America.
He's a major role in that. Steve Carell is in it as well. Huh. So he's rubbing shoulders with the likes of these big stars.
Yeah.
I mean, that only did, it wasn't a huge success, obviously. But it did, like, a couple of short series.
Interesting.
And then he did another show called The Jane Show, which again is built around a particular comedian, Jane something, I don't remember her name, but that was a Canadian show. And he was a regular character in that. So, like, he's off breaking the North America.
So my question, I'm sorry if I'm preempting here, but what happened? Why did he come back?
Well, no, these shows weren't huge successes, I guess, and I guess it didn't open any other doors. But I
think you get this where actors, and I don't mean the megastars, but actors of that sort of medium stature will go across to America, and they might do all right, but then you have a choice. Do I do this? Do I relocate here and be a medium-sized star here? Or, do I go back and have a life in Britain?
Or did he just, the opportunity dropped in his lap and he took it and then it didn't go anywhere, so he's come back?
Yeah.
I don't know. But then, he comes back, he's in The Green Wing, he's in one of the series of Saxondale, he's just popping up in things. Dirk Gently did with Stephen Mann. Yeah. But then a kind of a bit more of a breakthrough role for him was in 2011 with a show called Spy. Which again is kind of a little bit in my blind spot, and I'm not that familiar with it. But he's the lead. The show is built around him, and he won a BAFTA for best male comedy performance. He's like
really. Oh, well, there we go.
Totally
my blind
legit.
spot too. What year was that?
2011 and 2012. They did that.
Oh, okay.
He did a show called The Delivery Man, in which he's a midwife. He's the lead in that. Okay. He's in Trying. He's a supporting character in that. The Outlaws as well. And then most recently, he was in a show called We Might Regret This. He's like the male lead in that. And Sally Phillips is in that as well, coincidentally enough. But like huge shows. The Outlaws is, quite a big show. Christopher Walken.
Yeah, The Outlaws is that one with Christopher Walken in it, inexplicably.
Yeah.
On a parole team. Yeah.
And like this is just the comedy stuff I've written down here. This is just the comedy.
Well, one
stuff.
thing that I remember him being very good in on the serious front was a program called Fortitude, which was set in a kind of Arctic ice town. It was like a company town where everyone there was oil workers or engaged in that some way. And he was in a relationship with Jessica Gunning, who is now famous off the back of Baby Reindeer. And they were both really good in that. They were both brilliant in completely straight serious roles.
Yeah, and honestly, like Darren Boyd, like in my head, in the 90s, early 2000s, Darren Boyd should be just popping up in Trolleyed and things like that. He should have sort of Sally Phillips' career, I suppose. Maybe not even like that height. And like, I have to absolutely hold my hands up here. He's got a hell of a career, and he's doing big shows, great lead parts in them. He's winning awards all over the place. He's doing international work. And if you see a picture of him recently, the chiseled jawline
all right,
that
mate.
he's got.
Find it in.
And I think he's just kind of...
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, though. He's a good-looking boy.
But like I think he's in his 50s now, and it's just like, ooh, he's landed it now. He's found his look. He looks like David Coulthard.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, David Coulthard without the glandular trouble.
So I'm on Team Darren Boyd now. I'm going to go watch all this stuff.
All right, so we've I think we've dealt with Hugo. We're going to see him throughout this episode, but as far as I'm concerned, his arc is done, and it is a quiet one. So let's go back to the festival then. Yeah, we're all sat inside the tent. And incidentally, this is way too big a set. I mean, for obvious reasons, but if you've ever sat inside a tent with two other people, this is way too big. And Ray started a fire.
Yeah, obviously.
So there's some, unsafe shenanigans. Alex says you should put that out, it's dangerous. And it's all right. And then Jill says you should put it out, and he immediately puts it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, he respects women. Ray has bought some drugs off a Welsh bloke.
An ageing Welsh hippie.
Doesn't know what they are, but he's going to take them anyway. And
no, actually, do you know what? I've written it down. He's bought some drugs from a nervous-looking older Welsh hippie. Of adjectives there.
Yeah, that never pays off, does it? We never meet him.
No, exactly.
I
thought we were going to see this nervous-looking older Welsh hippie, but no. I thought about Windsor Davis for a minute.
But yeah, so here's an interesting thing. This is quite a specific thing, but I'm very confident on it. When Ray takes the drugs, he goes, "Do you know what? I'm just going to take the drugs. I don't care." And it is exactly the way Rick Mayall takes drugs in The Young Ones when when he takes an overdose, like he's trying to make people care that he's going to die.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just by chance. I've read Simon Pegg's autobiography. He's a massive fan of Rick Mayall. The Young Ones, he was, 12 years old, and The Young Ones completely blew his mind. Mm-hmm. And that is not by chance. That was a little Simon Pegg nod to Rick Mayall there, and I'm absolutely sure of it. So yes, we do get introduced now to Art Ledger as the proper character, and he's played by Dave Lamb. Little guest role for Dave
Lamb, yeah. So Art Ledger's the musician we were talking about earlier that they all love. Oh, that Ray loves. And yeah, he bumps into him at the urinal of all places. But yeah, Dave Lamb. So Dave Lamb's another one of those faces. Lots of sketches, lots of sitcoms.
Yeah.
I remember we saw him in Miranda. I think he guested in Miranda.
One episode of Miranda, yeah.
Episode, yeah. But what else has he been in? Like, I can't think of a big thing that he's been in, but I know him, you know?
I definitely think of him more of a sketch actor. I think for me, Goodness Gracious Me is the thing.
Yeah,
he was like the white guy in Goodness Gracious Me. He was also in a sketch show called Barking in 1998, which had like top up, like Lucas and Williams were in it, and like top talent coming up at the time. And he was in a show we have talked about before. It was called Dark Ages because Rob Grant wrote it, and we talked about that a little bit.
Oh yeah,
dealt with Red Dwarf, Phil Jupitus, and Alistair McGowan. It was not.
I watched a bit of that, and it was very poor.
Yeah, it looked pretty poor. He was a regular in The Life of Times of Vivian Vile.
Jennifer Saunders.
Yeah.
I think I remember that. I don't think I watched that, but I remember it.
And he was also a regular in a show called Moving Wallpaper. That's that one where there's a soap opera, and then we see like the behind the scenes.
Oh yes,
it's a sort of
yes,
sitcom.
I remember. Yes,
Sarah Hadland was in that. And Ben Miller is the kind of.
You see, I didn't watch that either. Which is so all these things he's been in. I've seen him in one episode of stuff, but the stuff that he's been in as a regular, I haven't watched.
Yeah, and he's kind of that kind of guy. I guess he's you know his face, but then he crops up in things, but never quite the lead or anything like that. But also, you would recognise his voice. He does do a fair bit of voice work overall, but he is probably best known to most people, the mainstream people, as the narrator on Come Dine With Me. He's the sarcastic voiceover guy on Come Dine With Me.
For her pud, Rosie blends her cake mixture and adds chopped apples.
Okay, this is looking good.
I beg to differ.
And that's probably,
I've never watched that.
I mean, certainly it's been his bread and butter for 20 years. Like, that's his living.
That'll pay well, won't it? I mean, I've never seen Come Dine With Me, but I get the gist of it.
So, to be fair to Dave Lamb, it's not like he's particularly wowing anyone in this role. And this character does, like, I don't know, should the character be bigger or something? Maybe, I don't know, it's just a bit of a whatever kind of character.
It's a kind of laid-back type character, isn't he? I mean, he's doing Bob Dylan. That's what we're supposed to, that's the analogue here. Yeah. And, I don't really know Bob Dylan, but I'm guessing he was quite laid back in the 60s.
Yeah. And so he does an interview with Ray at the urinal, or sort of fails that.
And he's terrible. Like, Ray's obviously a very poor interviewer. Who are your musical influences? Like the most cliche question.
Yeah, where do you get your crazy ideas? And then, obviously, later on, he gets interviewed by Alex, who is a very good journalist and interviewer, and so we get some really interesting things from him.
Do you know why that is? That's because Alex... Oh, jeez, I'm going again. Alex comes from privilege, and he can just talk to anyone as if he's their equal, whereas Ray is looking up to this artist, which you could argue is a fault of his.
Yeah.
But Alex is just, oh yeah, we're equals, we'll just have a chat, and he relaxes him.
Yeah. Look, it's not his fault it's privileged, okay?
Yeah. Shouldn't hold that against someone. I really shouldn't.
So then, basically, to set up the ending of the episode, Art Ledger says, "Oh, you've really helped me decide something today. You know, you're like I've got to make a big decision.
I have a big decision to make."
And Alex says, "You just got to do what feels right for you." You know. So I'm kind of assuming he's going to go electric. That's what I thought was going to happen. I suppose that's
what we're supposed to think.
Mislead.
So if you understand the reference, Bob Dylan went electric in 1965 and got booed, and that's kind of what that's the way we are being led.
Yes. But actually what happens is Art Ledger gets up on stage.
Funny. I think this is great. This is great Arthur Matthews writing.
Yeah, he gets up on stage and announces he's quitting the business to become a account manager for a high street bank.
No, hang on a minute. He doesn't announce that. What he does is he introduces a really good friend of mine, Alan Wilcox.
Now I want to introduce another friend of mine, Mr. Alan Wilcox.
Afternoon, everybody. My name's Alan Wilcox. I'm manager of Barclays Bank in Chingley, near Melgrove, in Berkshire. Anyway, I'm here today to announce that as from next week, our branch in Chingley will be welcoming aboard Mr. Art Ledger as the accounts manager.
It's a nice
so you
little
got this
swerve.
rock festival.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so good. Like, I'm obviously not expecting him to go electric, because that would be the obvious thing. There's going to be some twist on that, but I did not see Alan Wilcox coming.
And is this deliberately kind of playing into this, ideas of hippies and we were just talking about earlier with potential futures for Alex. Yeah, you grow up, you hit 24 and go, right, that's time to settle down and get a proper job, or my parents will cut me off.
As Jill says, it's the ultimate sellout. He joined a bank on stage. But this is their fear, isn't it? This is the fear of those kids in the squat, that they're going to end up as an accounts manager at Barclays Bank in Chigley. It's the worst case scenario.
Yeah. I think Ray is definitely going to end up as a local councillor. That's my prediction for Ray. He's going to stick to his ideals and achieve nothing.
We have missed a section out where Ray goes into a tent. We're not really sure why he goes into the tent, but the creepy professor is in there playing chess with a Chinese bloke.
Yeah.
We've seen this creepy professor already, haven't we? He's plays it Simon Kunz he's played by.
Simon Kunz?
I feel like you're being deliberately difficult here. I don't know how to say it, but it's interesting that I've gone Kunz and you haven't.
That's his name.
It's a bit of a Rorschach test.
Perfectly
so
acceptable.
he's an interesting guy. Like, I definitely recognise his face. What have we seen him in? He appears in a couple of episodes of Hippies.
Yeah, he's in a few episodes of Hippies. He's a professor that...
he's a creepy
Jill,
professor who's just basically trying to shag Jill.
There's quite a lot of sexual harassment going on, but also, they look up to him because he's kind of got this intellectual superiority over them. It's a messy character that kind of is in a few different episodes and fulfills a different thing each episode. It's kind of a bit messy. But yeah, Simon Kuntz, who plays him, he's been in one episode of everything. He's just one of those guys. Nothing particularly stand out that I've got, oh yeah, that's what I know him from.
It's an odd little scene, this. Like, this scene serves to set up the final punchline, where, as I said, the Chinese bloke playing chess here ends up buying Hugo as a... it doesn't matter. It's meaninless, really.
It sets up stuff for the Hugo storyline, which we've already established is kind of meaningless and not connected to anything else.
So I'm not really sure I am sure this scene adds nothing. But... yeah, but it's also just a complete non sequitur. Like, why is he there? Why is the professor there? Yeah. Why is the Chinese bloke there? Like, it's just nonsense. It doesn't make any sense, this scene.
He's a lot better in one of the other episodes. There's a line from this which I've stuck with me. It's one of those lines. I watched this in 1999, I guess, because it was never repeated. And a line that has stuck with me ever since then, and which he says to Ray, he says,
"We're living in a house of ideas, and you're painting that house a sort of shit brown."
Why has that line stuck in my head for 25 years? Don't know. But I think of that often. That and Get on the Bus, Ray. That's another one that I think of a lot. So, the hippies had an influence.
There you go. No, that's good when you remember lines like that. That's good. I like it. There's a sexy scene.
Oh, yes.
So Jill, having taken some drugs, is now sexually aroused, and she says, "Take me now. I really, really want to have a sex with you," which is a good line of someone who doesn't know how to do sexy talk.
That feels like a Richard Herring line, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does actually. Yes. Yeah, it does.
I wonder if there's been some influence there. Can you imagine Richard Herring's sex talk? When he was 23.
Oh, no, don't. But needless to say, the sex doesn't happen. Ray manages to ruin it, and
again, but in a way that I didn't like. He says something.
This is just so great, isn't it? Just nothing could go wrong there. Nothing. Hang on.
What's gone wrong, Ray?
I need to go to the toilet again.
Oh, I don't believe it.
I know, it's that bloody Welsh bloke, It's at times like this I wish I had 2 pricks.
And then he says, "I wish I had 2 pricks."
Yeah. But there's like the joke is that everyone's really offended by that, but it's not
such a disgusting thing
not
to
offensive.
say.
I don't know. It's just sort of like it doesn't quite make any sense. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. But yeah, that's kind of it, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, and the punchline of the episode really is Alan Wilcox announcing that Art Ledger's going to work in a bank. That's kind of the end of the episode. Then there's a little epilogue, if you like, where they're in the van on the way home, and Ray is having learned nothing. He's waxing lyrical about how he's changing the world, and editing a magazine is a proper job, and it's, they're out there to make the world a better place. And everybody just wants him to shut up, and Jill jumps out of the van to get away from him. And then we get another little topper. We go past Art and Alan Wilcox, who have by the side of the road with their broken down ginkle, which is a nice callback.
Nice,
That's very
nice
good.
Yeah. So that's kind of the end of the episode, but I would like to talk about Simon Pegg in a bit more detail.
Yeah, we sort of left him to last, haven't we?
Yes. But I went and read Simon Pegg's autobiography, so I think we should talk about him in more detail.
Well, you've probably got more to say than me then. I was just going to talk about how he's a massive movie star now.
Yeah, he is, exactly. But I read his autobiography. It's called Nerd Do Well.
Nerd Do Well.
Nerd Do
You've
Well.
got to say it like that. Nerd Do Well.
Yes, Nerd Do Well.
Very good.
And it's very nice, actually. It's a very sweet book. Simon Pegg is a good storyteller. Obviously, he's a writer as well as an actor. And the book really focuses on his childhood. Bear in mind, it was written in 2010, so he's done a fair bit since then. But it really focuses on his childhood and like where he's come from and all these influences. He's obviously he's a nerd. He's a pop culture nerd, right? So there's all these things, the films he was going to see in the 80s and comic books and stuff like that. And that you really get that sense that he can't quite believe that he's now making films with Steven Spielberg. He's in Star Trek as Scotty, like all this stuff that was like completely part of his life, his childhood, and now he's in it. And I don't think he's lost that sense of awe and wonder, and that comes across.
Yeah, that's good. That's lovely. I will say that having not read his book, I like him. Like I feel affection towards him. You know, he seems like a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
And I can't really back that up. You know, just based on interviews, I guess he comes across well, but yeah, he seems like a nice man.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a very familiar book. I think maybe even more to you because he's about 5 years older than you are. It's a slightly different generation to me.
Yeah.
But like growing up and like watching Star Wars and E.T. and all that kind of stuff. And a very kind of lower middle class kind of lifestyle. You know, it was very familiar, I guess. It was.
Yeah.
But he was like always a performer and like try and be the funny kid in class and all that sort of thing. And there's a lot of stuff in the book that is kind of plays into that nostalgia comedy style. Like he's saying, "Oh, remember the Wombles? What's that about?" You know, like that kind of thing. but that is obviously like his comedic stylings as well. And he did a lot of stand up, and that was kind of the way he sort of formed
so he's doing
material.
material a little bit.
Yeah, basically he was a theatre nerd. You know, in school, in drama classes and all that kind of stuff. Ended up going to University of Bristol, and he was in like the University of Bristol Comedy Review show, and he ended up in a comedy sketch act with several people, including David Walliams, before he palled up with Matt Lucas, who was a year below them, and Mfanwi Moore, who is a name you will recognise because
I do recognise that name.
You're going to see at the end of credits she's a producer at the BBC basically, and she produces loads of stuff. Not a coincidence that they were mates with someone who got in at the BBC. You know, that's a door opener. You've still got to kind of step through it, but that's nice. And like she's the same age as them. It's not like she pulled them through. You know, they've kind of all grown up together. And the other person who was in that troupe, who's gone on to other things, was Dominic Diamond.
I remember Dominic Diamond, Games Master.
Games Master, exactly. I'm sure he's done something else in the last 30 years. But
he was a stand-up comedian. He was a stand-up comedian, but Games Master is what I remember him as a kid.
Simon Pegg specifically cites Dominic Diamond as, I watched Dominic Diamond get up in front of a group of people and do stand-up, and I thought, I want to do that. Dominic Diamond was his direct inspiration to do stand-up. And stand-up was his way into performing. We've kind of talked about that before. I think, was it Neil Fitzmaurice? He was an actor, but he did stand-up just so he could get out there and do stuff. Ben Elton ended up doing stand-up as a way to present his writing. He didn't really want to do it. He was a writer. And he kind of did that. He was an actor, but he thought, right, I'll do a bit of stand-up. And the fact that he hasn't done stand-up for 30 years since he became a successful actor probably tells you it probably wasn't his true love. It was just a way to perform, a way to get up on stage and kind of have a bit of fun.
Well, that Steve Coogan DVD, you know, he's playing a character there. Yeah. He's like supposed to be one of the stagehands or something. And it's stand-up, you know, he's doing material, but it's not him. It's not being Simon Pegg.
But, you know, he met Kevin Eldon on the stand-up tour, for example, like Bill Bailey and all these kind of people like this. So it's like, you know, it got him known, and that's what it was all about. But yeah, it definitely seems like acting was more of his thing. So yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about this. He did Asylum with Edgar Wright. That was his first thing with him. Faith in the Future was kind of his legitimate, like this is a proper sitcom, kind of thing, not a young person sitcom. He was in Guest House Paradiso in 1999. So that was his kind of fulfilled his dream to work with Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson. who were his heroes.
Yeah.
Spaced was the big breakthrough, I guess. 99 to 2001, that was on. Again, someone came to him and Jessica Hines and said, you guys work together well, why don't you write something? We'll commission you a show to do it. And they went away and did it.
Yeah.
And again, the familiarity, I'm sure you watch Space, the familiarity, if you've lived in London in some crappy house share in the 90s, it means it's going to, it's...
But we'll have to do Spaced at some point. Spaced is so much more than that, isn't it? But that's Edgar Wright's vision.
And it's Edgar Wright that kind of turns it into something slightly more than that. And obviously he worked well with Edgar Wright, and we go on to Shaun of the Dead, and that breaks him into America, and etc., etc.
Yeah.
Although... interestingly enough, I was thinking, actually, when was the last thing?
So let me tell you what my notes say here. Right. So it says 2004, Shaun of the Dead and the Others. 2006, Mission Impossible 3 and the Others. Yeah, 2009, Star Trek. And then I've written, what have you done for me lately? So what has he done recently? I haven't seen him for ages.
Genuinely, I thought the same thing. I looked at his credits and he's working. He's out there working. He's doing Mission Impossible films apart from anything else. But
sure,
he's not writing as much. There's a TV show he did with Nick Frost. He doesn't seem to be like, oh, I'm a filmmaker now, I'm going to write things, maybe I'll have a go at directing. He's acting still and he's working, and you can do a Mission Impossible film every 3 years and you never have to work again.
Sure.
So I guess he doesn't need to, but then he doesn't seem to be translating that into, right, I'll sit in my office and write something. Or he is, and maybe they're trying to make something happen.
I was going to say, maybe he wants to spend more time with his family, and I don't mean that as a euphemism. But he's a bit older than me. Like his kids are probably grown up now, are they?
In the book that I read, which I say was written in 2010, he's got a wife and a young child of about 4 or 5, I think. So
maybe that's as simple as that.
I don't know if he's got more kids, but yeah, he doesn't need to work. Maybe he's just living his best life, and he is working. Don't get me wrong, but he's he can pick and choose what he wants to do, I suppose. And good for him.
Exactly. Well, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about how he just seems like a nice bloke, and I'm feeling all sorts of warmth towards him. Yeah, you spend time with your family, Simon. That's great. Okay, so that's Simon Pegg. Mm-hmm. So I think we've covered all of our actors now. I just want to come back to Arthur Matthews, because we talked about what he'd done before. What did he do after this?
So yeah, Arthur Matthews. Undoubtedly, at some point, we're going to do Father Ted. So maybe we'll go into more detail at that point.
And Paris.
Well, we'll always have Paris. Arthur Matthews, I won't go into his backstory, but him and Graham Linehan met each other and became writing partners and started out in sketch comedy, got a couple of sitcoms going, and Father Ted was the big success. So this show, Hippies, they wrote this pilot together, they created it together, but then they didn't make the show together. Graham Linehan went off. I guess his next thing he did was Black Books with Dylan Moran, so that was kind of the year after. So I guess he went off doing that. I don't think at that point they'd fallen out or anything. They were still making Big Train. And they just, as these writing partnerships do, I guess, they just sort of separated and started doing their own things. And, frankly, we think of him as a writing partner with Graham Linehan, but the last 10 years, he's been a writing partner with Matt Berry.
Toast of London.
Yeah, Toast of London, and then, they did Toast of Tinseltown as well. But there was a bit of a kind of a, not exactly a dead period in between, but, a quieter period where he was just working, trying to get things to go and things not quite pulling together or whatever. And Toast of London was like the big hit, wasn't it? That was the big thing.
Yeah.
And Graham Linehan was knocking out IT Crowd and Black Books and stuff like that. He was sort of theoretically a lot more successful at one point.
Count Arthur Strong he did as well, didn't he?
Yes, exactly. He's sort of switched back now. Arthur Matthews has had a big hit with Toast of London and I don't know, whatever Graham Linehan's up to. But we'll talk about that another day.
We'll have to eventually, but not today.
And I think they've kind of fallen out now, but Graham Linehan's fallen out with everyone, so I guess that's just the way it goes. So we're nearly at the end. Before we finish up, I just want to note a couple of guest actors as well, because, most notably, I wanted to mention Ray's parents, who are in every episode except this one, I think. Because we have Geraldine McNulty as the mum.
Now, I definitely know her face. Where is she? Where do I know her from?
Well, she crops up in all sorts of things, so you will have seen her in something. She was a regular in My Hero, and that's where I think of her as.
That's it.
She's the secretary at the doctor's where the wife works or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of definitely the biggest long-running sort of main character thing she did, but she crops up in all sorts of things.
That's it. That's where I know her from.
Yeah, nice bit of business there. And John Benfield as the dad.
Yeah, John Benfield. Now, that's a face I definitely know.
It's a face I know, but I went through his credits and was like, yeah, there isn't anything here that I'm like, yeah, that's what I know him from. But we have seen him. He was in an episode of Whoops Apocalypse. He was in a couple of episodes of Sean's show. So like we've seen him just done stuff we've done here. He's probably best known because he was a regular in Prime Suspect. But to be honest with you, that's a bit out of my kind of league. You know, so. But yeah, a few other guest stars. John Barden turns up in one episode.
Play a copper, does he?
Security guard.
Same thing.
The actor Kevin Eldon is there.
Yeah.
In his sort of usual, slightly manic way.
Yeah.
Dora Bryan, that's a vintage pull, that one. She turns up. But I think one of the most notable guest roles is Peter Serafinowicz.
Yes. So they're in one episode they're putting on a play which is a knockoff of Jesus Christ Superstar.
But this is Peter Serafinowicz is very much in this world, right? Because we see him in Shaun of the Dead, and he's in Alan Partridge, and but he was very much part of this world. And I guess he was always a bit of a voice actor and impressionist as well. That's very Steve Coogan, isn't it? And he did get his own show for a bit. It wasn't like a huge hit.
It's funny, Peter Serafinowicz, because he's done some really mainstream stuff, but he hasn't quite become a star. You know, I think he was Darth Maul, wasn't he? That's probably the most famous thing he ever did, but maybe he's just not recognised for that.
Well, that's the voice, isn't it? It's the voice work.
Does he do lots of voiceover work? Is that how he makes his money?
I mean, he does do a lot of voice stuff. He is successful. Like, let's not get it wrong.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
I think we just haven't found that kind of toast of London type vehicle that fits him. You know, I think he's he's an unusual character. I think perhaps because he does play big characters, kind of how it's difficult to pin him down as what he is, I suppose. But yeah, he's out there, and a great guest role. He plays a sort of arrogant actor in Ray's play, and they're at odds with each other.
If you ever, are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
If you ever do anything like that again, I will tear your prick off. Do you understand me, you clown?
What?
Do you want me to draw you a diagram? Do you want me to draw you a diagram?
Yes. What?
But it's a fun, like you can tell he's enjoying it as well.
Yeah.
Right, so I tell you what we haven't talked about that we do usually mention is the credits, title credits.
Yeah, the beginning credits, we got this sort of montage of them frolicking in a field. It's all very flower power, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit Teletubbies, and...
Actually, it's not Teletubbies, I thought that. You ruined that for me.
And there's a sort of a jingly hippie song sung by Simon Pegg.
Sung by Simon Pegg. Did he write the theme tune? I know he's singing the theme tune.
Yeah, I don't know, actually. I'm sure Arthur Matthews wrote it, but interestingly, it really sets out its sort of misogynistic tone of the show in the lyrics.
Yeah.
The birdie must fly, and the fishy must swim. The horsey must trot, and the girl she must slim. Let's all join together, hoof in hoof, hand in hand. Fin in fin, wing in wing, it's a very good plan.
I think it's supposed to be ironic, but like we've said about to us before in the 90s, haven't it? We can just be horribly offensive and call it ironic. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure it lands in the way I want it to. No. But it's a nice moment. And then in the end credits, a sort of follow on to that. We sort of a bit more frolicking, and it's Ray singing, peace, love, 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 peace, love. All we want is peace, 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 love, peace, peace, love. Like that. Best thing.
Etc., etc.
Love, peace, love, peace, love, love. Peace, love, ha, 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 ha. Peace, love, love, peace, love, love. Peace, love, peace, love, peace, love. Peace, love, peace, 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 peace. Peace, love, love, peace, love, peace, love, peace.
It's good enough for George Harrison.
I think we're kind of done, but like, how do we feel about this? Do you feel like it really... Does it capture the spirit of the hippie, the swinging 60s, 1969 and all that?
I don't know. It's funny, wouldn't it, with that like hippie culture. I suppose it'd be better to call it counterculture. Mm. And it was this idea that post-war consensus of all the straights were just the Conservatives and Labour, they all did the same thing, and this was like, no, we're going to drop out of the system. And I think that hippie culture was influenced by America, but it had a very British flavour, which was laid onto the class system, like we were talking about with Alex. It's a lot easier to be a dropout if you've got money, you know? Mm. That's it. That's all I got on hippies.
It's been lost in the mix a little bit. So nice to revisit it. It doesn't quite work, and the ingredients don't quite mix in the way that they need to. But that's okay. That's happened sometimes. A little bit of a misfire. Maybe if they'd pursued it a bit more, found their way a little bit, second series, we might have seen something different. I don't know. But actually not that bad as well. I think I have been pretty negative. It was a perfectly fun, silly watch.
Yeah, I disagree with you. I liked it. I think it's great. It's silly, but it's just the right level of silly for me. It doesn't reach the heights of Father Ted, of course not. But I think it's a good companion piece. And you can tell it comes from the same writer.
Yeah. It's out there if you would like to watch it, because it's not going to get repeated on TV. So you'll have to go looking for it.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for listening. Alan, what are we doing next?
We're taking a step back. Well, we're sort of still in the 60s, I suppose, technically speaking, but a very different world of the 60s. We're going to look at an early sitcom called The Marriage Lines.
That's with Richard Briers.
A young Richard Briers and a young Prunella Scales as a newly married couple. A very different vibe to Hippies, because they are very much the mainstream middle class. Do what society expects you of. Yeah, they are not counter anything. And so we're watching that at the moment. That's what we'll be doing next time.
That's great. Well, I hope you can join us in a couple of weeks. For now, thank you so much for joining us and letting us talk about Hippies. You can find us on social media. We are on Instagram at BritComPod, or we're on Facebook. If you just search for British Sitcom History Podcast, you'll find us there. Thanks very much for joining us, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.